Now, today we are looking at another watch from Olto 8. Today we're specifically looking at the Tide X, their interpretation of a dive watch. Now, right off the bat, one of the things that I do love about this watch is the fact that it comes in a traveling pouch. This is one of the things that watch companies finally have listened to their consumers and have given them something they can actually use. We're all used to these big, elaborate unboxings of these watch boxes and cases that just go in the back of the closet. Well, what I do love about some of the micro brands like Olto 8, they're putting them in a traveling case so I can take it with me. Remember, when you travel, you should always take at least 2 to 3 watches. So it's nice that they put it in a traveling pouch. So if you want to wear your Olto 8, you can wear it and put your alternative in this case. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase and this is All Things Random, mostly watch reviews with some random stuff sprinkled in between. I'm excited to bring you another watch from Olto 8. Now this thing has a lot of pros about it, some thoughts at the very end, but of course, as always, if you're here, hit the subscribe button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really does help the channel and it shows these watch companies that you're still watching. So do me a favor, hit the like button also, and let's get into, of course, the details first, then my opinions at the very end. Now, I really do love what Olto 8 is doing, especially in this watch. There's some key attributes that I'm going to point out right off the bat. A skeletonized watch is not for everybody, but I do love the way the dial's set up, the way the hands are, and the way you tell the hours along the top third portion of the watch. We'll discuss more about that in a minute. I love the fact that they're using their own self-developed movement. That's the SL2204B inside this watch, and we'll talk about that more in a moment also. But one of the things that I actually do love the most about this watch is going to be the finishing of the outside of the case. It's a 316L stainless steel and it's a 3-piece structure, and I just love the way it looks. The grade subdued of it means it's not going to get scratched very easily. And since we're talking about the case, let's go ahead and go over the diameters and dimensions right now. 42 millimeters in case diameter, has a thickness of 13 millimeters. A lug to lug or overall footprint of this watch is going to be 49. So it's actually a sweet spot on a lot of wrists, but if you have a tiny wrist, this may not be for you. And a lug or strap width right here of 22 millimeters. Sadly, no chase strap on this today, but the strap that they offer is a very, very soft rubber that is extremely comfortable on the wrist, and I'll show you a wrist shot here in a few. Now, as you see from the design, this is a dive style watch. It is a dive watch with a proper 200 meters of water resistance. It does have a screw down crown, and everything feels just great when going through the functions of this watch. Now, this is a dive style. That's what I say. It does have a unidirectional bezel that feels very nice. However, I say dive style and more of a sports watch because as a scuba diver myself, it would be extremely hard to actually use this as a timing bezel. Now, as you use it, you use the minute hand right here. Well, let's just go over how this watch actually functions. You can see there's 3 hands here and the hours are along the top third. And then you have the minute hand as the long hand right here that rotates around the entire 60 minutes of the watch. Now, the way this works is let's just say this is at 4 o'clock right now at 4:25. As this rotates around, you can see that this is how you read the hours, which is very unique. As it reaches, we'll say the 11 and 12, both 12s are lined up. So now it's 12 o'clock. And then now you're into 1, 2. Now, why is this going to be hard to read? This is a very beautiful design in their watch if you like something with a little complication, but it's going to be hard to read as more of a timing bezel simply because this is a very small minute hand. It does have a pip almost at the very end that is loomed. So if I wanted to, let's just say, time my dive, what I would do is I would take my timing bezel, I'd put it right here, and then it would be almost a countdown. So let's just say 20 minutes. So as this moves along the minute track down here, then at 20, I would, whatever, that's how you use a timing bezel. Now, this just is going to be very hard to see on the fly. When it comes to dive watches are similar to pilot's watches. They're supposed to be very clean, uncluttered, very easy to read on the fly. This is easy to read. However, if I was in a situation where I needed to look down real quick, I don't think this is going to be the best dive watch, but this is a great sports watch. And I say that because, again, the finishing of the watch is not going to scratch very easily. You can bang this up. 316L stainless steel, sapphire glass on the top with AR coating, and this does have 200 meters of water resistance, so you can wear it anywhere without having to worry about it. Now, let's talk about the movement inside. Now inside, they say this is their self-developed model SL2204B, plus or minus 10 seconds a day for accuracy. The vibration rate is 28,800 vibrations an hour, 36 hours of power reserve, and this thing has 24 joules. It does look nice, especially from the back, especially from a micro brand, and this is a very affordable watch. It does have a screw-down case back, and again, 200 meters of water resistance. Now the dial itself is a multi-layered copper structure, semi-skeletonized middle layer with a circular sandblasted texture, luminous hour markers, and unique printing on the upper layer. Again, you can see that along that upper third, it does have the hours from 12, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12, and those are loomed. Down at the bottom, you can see the beating open heart, then just below that, Olto 8's logo, along the side, Olto 8, and then automatic. Again, it does have a beat rate of 28,800 vibrations an hour, so that second hand beats at 8 ticks a second. This is a high beat movement. Now let's go over some pros and cons of the watch, and we'll toss it on the wrist. Now, one of the things that I would say is a con isn't even a con. It's going to be your taste and your opinion about a watch. A lot of people don't like skeletonized watches, and I understand why. They want something simple like a classic Submariner or even a Flieger style pilot's watch that is just simple, super easy to read, especially if they're going to use it for diving. This is not that at all. The beautiful open work of the skeletonized dial, honestly, is very eye-catching, and some people love that, and some people just don't love that. I do. I like the unique design. If I'm going to have a unique watch on the wrist, I want it to be both pleasing to the eye and a conversation starter. One of the things I think they did really great is that self-designed automatic movement just behind the dial. One of the things that a lot of micro brands are doing that is just a terrible idea is using an off-the-shelf movement and just putting it in an open dial skeletonized design. Clearly, they didn't do that. You can see the bridging along the dial really does open up the key attributes of the movement itself. You can see the gears just behind the 12 o'clock here, the beating open heart just here at the 6 o'clock position. There are no like strange, weird, flat surfaces or bridging that is out of place. So you can definitely tell they designed this watch from the movement out, or even from the dial down. Regardless of how they designed it, they did a very, very good job. Another thing I love about this watch, outside of the fact that it does have a piece of dead flat sapphire crystal, which I am a huge fan of, one of the things I don't like, especially when doing reviews, is a domed sapphire crystal, because it just makes it very hard to actually photograph this dial. Right? It'll blare, it's very hard. I love the dead flat sapphire crystal. That's just my own personal opinion. I also love this for underwater because it gives a better perception underwater when actually reading the watch as opposed to a domed crystal. I love the 316L stainless steel, and I love the sandblasted finish of this watch. I think that they did a very, very good job. I think it's going to look good for a lot longer. One of the things that I don't like about the watch is the way that I can't actually use this as its functionality. I said that already a few minutes ago. The fact that I can use this timing bezel, which is super grippy, to actually tell time, but I can't really use it on the fly, right? It's very hard to see the minute hand. So this is not going to be a true dive watch. It is a true dive watch, but it's going to be hard to use it for diving. 200 meters of water resistance. So this thing is going to be able to last in any type of environment. You can scuba dive with this if you want. It's just going to be hard to actually use the timing feature with that tiny hand. That being said, I think they did a very, very good job. I think it's a home run. They are creating a very unique footprint in the micro brand market. And this is not the first and this is not the last Olto 8 I plan on bringing onto the channel. Let's go ahead and toss it on my 7 1/4 inch wrist. Now here's the watch on my 7 1/4 inch wrist, and you can see that this lug to lug or footprint of that 49 millimeters actually fits my wrist quite well. I have what most people would call a standard size medium wrist. 7 1/4, 7 1/2, all the way down to 7 inches is basically the standard middle, and this thing fits perfectly even if it is slightly above 41 millimeters, just technically under 42 millimeters, but again, 42 millimeters in diameter. A lot of people would think that it's slightly too big, but you can see that it actually wears quite well on the wrist, especially my wrist. Now, if you have a 5 3/4 inch wrist, this thing is going to fit a little bit bigger. And if you have a wrist that is 7 1/2, 7 3/4 to 8 inches, if you're a slightly bigger guy, this thing is actually going to fit more like a 38 millimeter to a standard wrist. But I think that overall it wears quite nicely. I do love, again, that rugged look of that sandblasted finish. It looks great against the skin, and that open design of the skeletonized movement just gives, again, a nice pleasing pop to the eye, really draws it down to the wrist, and is a conversation starter. And here's a quick loom shot for you. You can see the minute track is loomed. The hours along the top are loomed. The minute hand down here is loomed. And of course, the 3-hour hands that allow you to read the watch. I think the loom is actually done quite nicely. It stays around for quite a bit. So they definitely did use good loom, and they used a lot of it. Now, I'm pretty pleased and I'm pretty happy with the overall design aesthetic and durability and construction of this watch. On the close-up inspection of the dial, I couldn't find anything wrong, and I do love the fact that they're using their own self-designed movement inside. I've already said it in the video, but if they would have just used an off-the-shelf movement, it would have looked terrible and tacky like some of the other micro brands have done, but Olto 8 did not do that, so I have to give them props for that. I do love the finishing of the case. I love the design of the case, and I love the fact that they offer this in multiple colors. I do like the green, and my secondary color of choice would have been something like the blue, but I do love the overall presentation and aesthetic that Olto 8 is bringing. Now, they do have their own sort of design features in the watch, like that open skeletonized casework. This is indicative of a lot of watches I've reviewed from them, and that's okay. That is their design feature that is indicative of their brand. Like Aventi does their watch cases all the exact same way. They are bringing their own brand into their design, so they are standing out from a lot of the other brands out there. I love the way the watch fits on the wrist, and I love the comfort of that rubber strap. I only wish, if I could change anything about this watch, what I would do is I would change the diameter from around 42 down to 40, because that's just the perfect size watch. I'd bring the thickness from 13 to 12, and I would bring the overall lug to lug from 49 down to 47. And then I would bring, of course, that lug width or that strap width down to 20, simply so I can put a chase strap on this watch. Other than that, the watch is very, 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 very good. I would give it maybe like an 8 out of 10, and that's only because this isn't going to appeal to everybody because of that open skeletonized dial, but it is going to appeal to a lot of people, and the people who are going to buy it are going to absolutely love it. Anyway, what do you guys think about the watch? I would love to hear you guys' comments down below. in the comments. If you want to look into this watch, I'll leave a link in the description. Again, if you're here, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. It's free, really does help the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. Hit the like button, hit the notification bell, because I got videos coming out all the time, and I'll see you guys in the next one.